To understand Bob and Andy's work, perhaps it would help to ask what would happen if we didn't have the bandwidth provided by multiple colors, wavelength division, multiplexing as it's called, within an optical fiber to give us bandwidths of order terabits per second.
And as I was raking leaves, I tried to do a simple calculation in my head that would tell me how much optical power in a fiber would be required to observe one of these nonlinearities. And at first I didn't believe that I had done the calculation right, because the optical power that I had calculated was so small that it was well within the range of future telecommunications systems.
How could something like a weak nonlinear effect in this fiber ever really be a problem, right? And how big a problem could it be?
When that happened, when amplifiers became available, it went from being hard to see the nonlinearities to being hard to escape them. It really came on with a vengeance, especially if you were looking at systems with low dispersion fiber.
Well, this is difficult to be brilliant by yourself. It's impossible, actually. You have to have a sounding board. And it's good to have somebody who has a broad knowledge base, so you can communicate very easily. Because when you're using sounding board, you need to communicate very efficiently. And Andy and Bob, they are just perfect for each other in that sense.
The importance of this work in terms of how it allows you to get to much higher capacities and systems was not completely appreciated by the industry in general, because people were saying, well, we just got these fiber systems and they have a lot of capacity. We don't really need a ton more capacity.
Understanding that and understanding it early, so that when when the other technology, in this case, the erbium doped amplifier, came on the scene, we were ready to answer that question.
But again, one of the strengths of Bell Labs is that this type of work was allowed to go on. And so by the time optical nonlinearities were recognized to be a tremendous problem in communication systems, Bob and I had been working on nonlinearities for almost a decade. So we had a tremendous head start on the rest of the world in this area. And this, after the invention of the erbium doped fiber amplifier by David Payne, this whole area of nonlinearities literally exploded on the scene.
And so what they did was enabled us to go from around about 10 gigabits per second up to where we are today. Approaching 1,000 times that. So without their work, we wouldn't have a working internet today. That's how important it was.
This whole effort in WDM was horrendously expensive by any sort of metric, by any sort of measure. And because you had to buy multiple copies of many things, lasers, fibers. Our testbed labs back then were worth several millions of dollars, and where do you get money like that? Even Bell Labs considered that fairly pricey stuff.
The innovation process comes from the grassroots.
We would march into Tingy Lee's office, who was our department head, and said, "Tingy, we need another $1 million."
We never had any difficulty getting support for our work.
He would go to Herwig. Herwig never batted an eye, and to his credit, I think he saw that this was going to pay off.
That they were not just doing fundamental research and understanding in great detail what goes on in the fiber, including the nonlinearities and the dispersion, but they were also pushing to apply their insights to the practical field.
It was just working at the most meticulous level, or the highest level of science between them, and solving the problems, finding this engineering space that would allow this to happen. And that's what they did.
Moving from a gigabit per second on a fiber to a terabit per second on a fiber, a factor of 1,000, right, kind of increase that was made possible with the work of Andy and Bob, really happened very quickly because it opened up a whole new infrastructure for the world.
They're humble in the sense that they don't pretend to know everything, so they're always in the mindset of learning new things. Very open-minded. That's how you achieve great innovations, because you see solutions where others don't see, because you have open-mindedness.
We didn't really take any accepted rules as being rules that we should follow, and but just went ahead and tried things that other people didn't want to try.
And we didn't take anything seriously.
That's right. We didn't take the potential possibility of failure seriously, or success too seriously either.